Hey there, everybody. Thank you for stopping by my channel, The Magical Solution. We are live here on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. This is my show. This is how we grow. And of course, we're continuing on with the Medium's book by Allan Kardec. I legitimately have no idea what chapter we're on anymore. I really should take inventory of that. Um, but let's keep going. So the chapter we kind of stopped in the middle of the chapter the last time. So the title of it was The Development of Mediums. And then the subcategories were the development of mediumship, changes in handwriting, and the loss and suspension of mediumship. So we left off on the subcategory of changes in handwriting. So I'm sorry, the loss and suspension of mediumship. That's where we left off. So let's get to it. And for those of you who don't know what it is that we're doing, or if you're joining me for the first time, I've made it a point that every Thursday I want to read through as many books as we can get to regarding psychic mediumship, regarding spirituality, and any suggestions that you might have of what you guys want me to read. But the point of me doing this is to help, you know, our communities who have difficult time reading. Maybe they have dyslexia, maybe they have ADHD, maybe, who knows? There could be a gambit of reasons why picking up a book might be difficult. And so I'm doing this for the purpose of giving them an opportunity to grow spiritually and learn the things that they want to learn without having reading these books being a hindrance for them. Okay. And we already did Allan Kardec's The Spirits book. That's already been completed. If you want to catch up, go to my YouTube channel and all the previous chapters are there. And we're on this one. And then our next book after this, I'm really excited about. We're gonna be no, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. All right, let's keep going. So the loss and suspension of mediumship, that's where we are. The mediumistic faculty is subject to interpretations and temporary suspensions, both for physical manifestations and written ones. Following is the response of the spirits to a few questions on the matter. So he's going to be laying out a few questions, and the spirits themselves are going to be answering. All right, so I'll try my best to change my voice a little bit so you can tell the difference. Can mediums lose their faculty? This happens frequently, whatever may be the type of faculty, but it is nearly always nothing more than a temporary interruption that ceases with the cause that has produced it. Would the exhaustion of the fluid be the cause of the loss of mediumship? Whatever medium's ability may be, they have no ability whatsoever without the sympathetic cooperation of the spirits. Whenever they do not receive anything, it is not always because they lack the faculty, but frequently because spirits do not want or are even unable to use them. So I really hope you guys heard that piece. We've talked about this in the spirits book, that every single person has the capability to develop their faculties. Their faculties and the fluids that run within them is always there. And it's just a matter of exercising that muscle. But really, the true art of a medium is not so much whether or not their faculties are fully developed or whether or not they're the greatest clairvoyant or the greatest whatever. It's whether or not they actually have maintained relationships with spirits. Do they have relationships with spirits and are able to communicate with spirits because of that relationship? If you have not done your work to build relationships with spirits, no matter how amazing your faculties might be, you're not going to get anything. Okay? What causes spirits to abandon mediums? Well, the way in which they use their mediumship is what most influences good spirits. We may abandon them when they use it on futile or ambitious purposes, or when they refuse to transmit our words or to collaborate in producing phenomena for incarnates who beseech them or who need to see them in order to be finally convinced. God does not bestow this gift upon mediums for their own pleasure, even less for them to serve their ambitions. Rather, it is to serve their own progress and to make the truth known to humankind. If spirits see that their mediums are no longer in harmony with their purpose, or do not take advantage of the instructions and advice that they are given, then they withdraw and seek out more worthy wards. Can spirits who withdraw be replaced? And if so, how are we to understand the suspension of the faculty? Indeed. There is no lack of spirits who are especially desirous to communicate and who are always ready to replace those who withdraw. However, when those who have withdrawn are good spirits, it is possible that they might have only withdrawn temporarily, depriving such mediums just for a time of all communication so that they may learn a lesson and realize that their faculty does not depend on themselves and therefore must not be used for their own vanity. This temporary deprivation has the further aim of proving to them that they write under the influence of another. Otherwise, they would not experience interruptions. Moreover, the interruption of the faculty is not always a punishment, but sometimes demonstrates spirit's care for the mediums toward whom they are affectionate and to whom they want to provide a respite when they deem it necessary. In that case, they will not permit other spirits to replace them. So I hope you guys got that. Your good spirits, especially the good spirits that you've cultivated relationships with that are part of your spiritual court, they do not abandon you. They may teach you lessons, but they do not abandon you. And they sure as hell won't let anyone, any other spirit come on in and just start messing with your faculties. Because the reality is, if a spirit does withdraw, trust me when I tell you that there are plenty of lower vibrational spirits just waiting in the wing to come on in and play trickster. Okay. So it's really important to when you come across yourself feeling like, oh man, I'm my messages have been off lately, or oh, I don't feel connected anymore. Or, oh, when you start going through those sort of dark nights of the soul, do not be so much in a rush to start using your faculty again right away. Really take the time, figure out your lessons, figure out what you need to work on so that your good spirits and your protector spirits come back and say, good, you've learned your lesson. Now let's proceed. Right? Okay, but morally speaking, there are mediums of great worth who do not feel any need for respite and become very distressed at the interruption because they do not understand its purpose. Well, it serves to test their patience and to evaluate their perseverance. That is why spirits generally do not set a time limit on the suspension, because they want to see if their mediums become disheartened. It is also often for the purpose of allowing them time to meditate on the instructions that they have been given. And through such meditation, we recognize who the truly serious spiritists are. We cannot regard as such those who are actually mere amateurs at communication. That's pretty serious, right? Okay, well, then is it necessary for mediums to continue attempting to write and do their mediumship when their stuff has been suspended? If their spirits counsel, then yes. If they had advised them to abstain, this must be obeyed. So, is there a way for them to shorten the test? Yes, through resignation, through prayer, and through meditation. At most, it is enough to make an attempt daily just for a few minutes, for it would be useless to waste time on fruitless efforts. Such attempts only serves to verify whether the faculty has returned. Does the suspension imply the withdrawal of the spirits who habitually communicate? In no way. Such mediums find themselves in the situation of persons who have temporarily lost their sight, but who have not been abandoned by their friends, even though they cannot see them. These mediums can and should continue to converse with their familiar spirits through thought and persuade themselves that they are indeed listened to. If the lack of a medium can deprive them of physical communications with certain spirits, it does not deprive them of the mental ones. So basically, what the spirit is saying here is that during your time of your medium faculty suspensions, even if you are instructed not to continue trying to communicate with spirits, you still must not lose faith and you must still pray and meditate and think about your spirits. Communicate in your mind to your spirits. Pray to them in your mind so that you're letting them know that in this dark time when I am not when my faculties are quiet, I still have faith. I still believe and I still know that you're listening to me. And that is the true test. That's how you'll tell your spirits that you have passed, okay? That you are deserving of your gift. So then the interruption of the mediumistic faculty is not always a rebuke by the spirits? No, of course not, since it can also be a demonstration of benevolence. Okay, well then how can we recognize if an interruption is a rebuke or not? Well, you interrogate your conscience and ask yourself what use you have made of your faculty, what good others have derived from it, and what profit you have derived from the counsels that have been given to you. And you will have your answer. Can mediums who have lost their writing ability resort to another medium? Well, that depends on the cause of the interruption. It is nearly always a need to allow them some time without communications after the counsels that have been given to them so that they do not get used to doing everything only under guidance. In that case, they will not find what they are seeking with another medium. This has a further purpose, which is to demonstrate that independence of spirits, whom they cannot make act at their own pleasure. This is also the reason why those who are not mediums do not always obtain all the communications that they desire. So, what he's talking about here is that as a medium, you know, it's really, really important that you have a sense of autonomy and independence. Every move that you make does not have to be divinely guided by your spirits. Like unless you're living like a nun, unless you're a monk on top of a hill who've dedicated your entire life to this sole purpose, there's no reason that a person who lives a 9 to 5 job, goes out, has kids, has a family, needs to be living in that way. And so these spirits, when they withdraw, they're teaching you how to trust in yourself, how to trust in your abilities, and how to trust in your own um, movements throughout the world, right? And your own communications with each other. Um, I think that's actually a really important use of that because it's a great question. I mean, like he basically was like, "Well, if I don't have my faculties, can I just go to another medium? Can I just, get the advice from another medium?" And the spirit was like, "No, like you're completely disregarding the point." You know what I mean? So, in fact, we must observe that those who resort to a third party to obtain communications, notwithstanding the medium's quality, often receive nothing satisfactory, whereas on other occasions the responses are very explicit. It depends so much on the spirit's will that everything will remain the same in spite of the medium. It seems that the spirits themselves obey a word of order in this case because whatever cannot be gotten from one medium cannot be obtained any better from another. We should thus avoid insisting and being impatient so that we do not become victims of deceiving spirits who will respond if we ardently desire it. For good spirits will allow them to do so in order to punish, for instance. All right, no, will allow to punish our, what is it called? Our insistence. Sorry. Okay, next question. For what purpose has Providence endowed certain individuals with special medium abilities? Like, why? Why? Well, it is the mission that they have been charged with and about which they should feel fortunate. They are interpreters between spirits and humankind. But there are mediums who only reluctantly employ their faculty, and they are imperfect mediums. They do not realize the value of the grace that has been granted to them. Okay, so if it is a mission, why doesn't it represent the privilege of moral individuals only? Since it is also given to those who merit no consideration and who may even abuse it. That's a really great question, you guys. The fact that, every person on earth has the capabilities of exploring their psychic and mediumistic abilities. He's saying here, like, why is it allowed for everyone? Like, why isn't this gift only given to morally good and just people? Because these kinds of gifts can definitely be abused, and like charlatans can come out of this, right? And the spirit says, precisely because such individuals need it in order to evolve. And so that they may have the possibility of receiving wise teachings. If they do not take advantage of it, they will suffer the consequences. Didn't Jesus himself prefer to speak to sinners, stating that it is necessary to give to those who are in need? Okay, well, couldn't persons who have a great desire to write as mediums, but who do not manage it, reach negative conclusions about themselves with regards to the goodwill of spirits towards them? No, because God could have refused to grant them the faculty, just as God could have refused them the gift of poetry or music. However, if they do not enjoy this faculty, they can enjoy others. How can humans perfect themselves through Spirit's teachings when they do not have the possibility of receiving such teachings directly, whether through themselves or through other mediums? Don't they have books? Just as Christians have the gospel. In order to practice the morals of Jesus, Christians do not need to hear the words straight from the Master's own mouth. And this is sort of Allan Kardec's way of saying, my books are doctrine. My books are the Spiritist Gospels. So he kind of snuck that in there. I mean, you got to read between the lines. Okay, we are now on the next chapter. Super excited. This chapter is called The Problems and the Dangers of Mediumship. And the subcategories are the influence of the practice of mediumship on health, the mind, and on children. Woo! Here we go. And again, we're going to continue with the question and answer. So it's Allan Kardec asking these spirits questions, and then the spirits are answering. Is the mediumistic faculty an indication of some pathological state or simply just an abnormal one? Sometimes abnormal, but not pathological. There are vigorously healthy mediums. Unwell ones are so for other reasons. Can exercising the mediumistic faculties cause fatigue? The prolonged exercise of any faculty produces fatigue. The same happens with mediumship, especially the physical effects types, which necessarily cause an expenditure of fluids. This leads the medium to become fatigued, but his or her fluids will be restored with rest. Apart from cases of abuse, can exercising mediumship in and of itself cause health problems? There are times when it is prudent and even necessary to abstain from or at least moderate the use of mediumship. It depends on the physical and mental state of the medium, who usually becomes aware of it. When the medium begins to feel fatigued, it is time to stop. So, might exercising the faculty present more problems for one individual than for another? As I just said, it depends on the medium's physical and mental state. There are persons who should avoid any cause of overexcitement, and the practice of mediumship would be one of them. Can mediumship produce insanity? No more than anything else could when mental weakness predisposes one to it. Mediumship will not produce insanity where the germ of insanity does not already exist. If it does, it is easily recognized through the individual's mental condition, and common sense tells us that we must take all the precautions necessary, for in such a case, any disturbance would be harmful. So I really hope you guys are paying close attention to this. This is why so many of us who are in the psychic medium world and spiritist world really, really harp heavily on people getting therapy. Like for really real, like going to a therapist, seeking out, someone to talk to, someone to really work through your stuff. And if medication is needed, getting on that. If there's a chemical imbalance in the brain, figuring out a way to regulate it, because to dive into anything, and I mean anything, not just the medium stuff, but like psychedelics, any form of like ecstatic states, even meditation, all of these things, not meditation, I'm sorry, like meditative, like trance states, channeling, mounting, things like that, all of that can be really, really dangerous to a compromised mind, to a mind that has not fully developed, to a mind that has not tackled its demons, to a mind that has not regulated their emotions. So it's really important that if this is the world that you want to enter, that you really seek therapy. It's super, super important. Could developing mediumship in children cause problems? Certainly. And sustaining it could also be very dangerous because such fragile and delicate organisms would be very disturbed and their infantile imaginations too overexcited. Thus, prudent parents will keep these ideas away from them, or at least they will speak to them regarding their possible consequences from the mental point of view. Okay? The same reason why bringing your child to a Christian church or a mosque, or the same reason why we say indoctrination of children is harmful is the same way we would say teaching a child mediumship is harmful. Children's brains are still developing. They get very excited, they get very stimulated with everything that's happening around them because it's all new to them. And that overexcitement for the brain, that overstimulation for the brain at a time when their brain is still developing, at a time when they don't have the language or the comprehension to think about these thoughts in very like metaphorical and allegorical ways, can be really damaging to a child. It can terrify a child and it can really be traumatic. So it's important to keep the religious talk and spiritual talk to a minimum, or keep that kind of discussion to a very practical, like hands-on kind of way so that they can understand it from their little world point of view. Okay? Well, nonetheless, there are children who are natural mediums, whether of physical effects, writing, or visions. Is the same danger involved in these cases? No. When the faculty manifests spontaneously in children, it belongs to their nature and their constitution is adequate. The same does not apply when mediumship is artificially caused and induced. You may notice that children who have visions are usually little concerned about them. Visions seem very natural, so they pay little attention to them and almost always forget about them. Later on, however, the remembrance returns and is easily explained if they understand Spiritism. Okay? At what age may mediumship be practiced without causing any problems? And I think he's referring to here as when can we induce, when can we teach mediumship, not when a child already has a natural predisposition to it. Well, there is no precise age limit. It depends entirely on the physical development and more particularly on the psychological development of the child. There are children of 12 years of age who would be less impressible than some already developed individuals. I am referring to mediumship in general, since physical effects mediumship is more fatiguing to the body. And as for writing, there is another problem in that children lack experience, and also they may want to practice it alone or make a game of it. As we shall soon see, the practice of Spiritism requires much tact in order to undo the ruses of deceptive spirits. If adults are deceived by them, then children and youths are even more exposed to them due to their inexperience. We also know that meditation is an essential condition without which we cannot address serious spirits. Evocations made carelessly or for the purposes of entertainment comprise a true profane nation, and as such, they open the door to mocking and malevolent spirits. Since we cannot expect the necessary seriousness for such an act from children, we should fear that if left to themselves, they might transform it into a game. Even under the most favorable conditions, we must hope that children gifted with mediumship will only exercise it under the supervision of experienced individuals who, through their own example, will teach them the respect due to the spirits of those who used to be of this world. Therefore, we see that the problem of age is subordinate both to the conditions of temperament and to character. Nevertheless, what the above responses clearly emphasize is that we must not force the development of mediumistic faculties in children when it is not spontaneous, and that in all cases is necessary to utilize it only with great circumspection and never elicit or encourage its practice by frail individuals. We must use all available means to keep mediumistic practices away from those who show the least sign of eccentricity in their ideas or weakness in their mental faculties, for they are obviously predisposed to insanity, which any overexciting cause may develop. In this respect, Spiritist ideas have no more influence than any others. But should insanity manifest itself, it will take on the character of the dominant preoccupation, just as it would take on a religious character in persons who hand themselves over to the excesses in devotional practices. But the responsibility would be attributed to Spiritism. The best thing to do with any person who displays a tendency towards insanity is to steer their preoccupations in another direction in order to provide rest to their weakened organs. In this matter, we would call the attention of our readers to section 7 of the introduction of the Spirits book. All right, what time is it? 7:30. We're still going. We're on another chapter. Yay. These chapters are actually kind of short. So it's happening pretty quickly. Nice. So now the next chapter is the role of mediums in communication. And the subcategories of this chapter are the influences of the medium's spirit, the theory of inert mediums, the aptitude of certain mediums for things they do not know, languages, music, drawing, etc., and a spirit's dissertation on the role of mediums. Here we go. The influence of the medium spirit. Again, we're still in that question and answer kind of dialogue. During the time in which they exercise their faculty, are mediums in a perfectly normal state? Sometimes they are in a state of crisis that is more defined or less so. This is what fatigues them and why rest is necessary. But most of the time, their state is not otherwise than normal, especially where writing mediums are involved. Can a written or verbal communications also come from the medium's own spirit? The medium's soul can communicate like any other. If it enjoys a certain degree of liberty, it recovers its qualities as a spirit. You have proof of this when you are visited by the souls of living persons who communicate with you through writing, often without having been called. You should realize that among the spirits you evoke, there are those who are still incarnated on the earth. In these instances, they speak with you as spirits and not as human beings. Why couldn't the medium's own spirit do the same? Okay, so doesn't this explanation seem to confirm that the opinion of those who believe that all communications emanate from the medium's own spirit rather than from another spirit? No, they are mistaken in the understanding that their opinion is absolute. The medium's spirit can certainly act on its own, but this is no reason for other spirits not to be equally able to act through the medium's intermediation. Okay, so then how can we tell if the spirit who responds is that of the medium or if it's from another spirit? By the nature of the communication. Study the circumstances and the language, and you will be able to tell. The medium spirit manifests especially in the somnambulistic or ecstatic state because that is when it is the freest. But in the normal state, it is more difficult. And moreover, there are responses that could not possibly be attributed to the medium's own spirit. And that is why I have told you to observe the study. When persons are speaking to us, it is easy to distinguish between what actually originates from them and what they are only repeating. The same applies to spirits. Since medium spirits could have acquired knowledge in previous existences, which it has forgotten in its present body, but which it remembers as a spirit, couldn't it draw from deep inside itself the ideas that seem to go beyond the reach of its present education? See, Allan Kardec is asking them hard hitting questions like, yo, like maybe it's just all in our heads. Like if we're reincarnated and like we have many past lives and we're learning shit every time we go, then what's to say that when we're doing mediumship work in this life that we're not just talking to ourselves, that it's not just our past lives coming through, right? Well, this often happens in cases of somnambulistic or ecstatic trances, but there are still circumstances that allow for no doubt. Study the matter in depth and meditate. So basically, what the spirit is saying here is like, bitch, look, that is a possibility. That's a possibility. But the reality is that the same way you are reincarnated a million times, so is everyone else. And the spirits that you are communicating may be you, and it may be someone else's, or it may be someone else's past life, or it may be whatever. The point is that through meditation, you learn discernment. Your discernment will allow you to know whether this is coming from your own self, from your own past lives, from someone else's spirit, someone else's past life, or from an otherworldly spirit altogether. Okay? And that takes practice. That takes years. And in some instances that takes lifetimes, right? Are the communications of the medium's own spirit always inferior to those that may be attributed to other spirits? Always? No. Since the communicating spirit can be of a lower order than that of the medium, in which case it will speak less sensibly, this may be seen during somnambulism because that is when the somnambulist spirits frequently manifest. However, it will often give very good information nonetheless. Okay, does the communicating spirit transmit its thought directly, or does it use the medium's incarnate spirit as an intermediary? The medium's spirit is the interpreter because it is connected to the body which serves for the communication. And because this link between you and the communicating spirits is necessary, just as an electrical wire is necessary for transmitting news over a distance, and an intelligent person is necessary on either end of the wire to receive and communicate it. Bitch, right? And the faculties, right? The fluids that flow through the body are what allow the spirit to then speak to the body for then the body to then say out loud or interpret or whatever, write it, whatever it is that they need to do. Does the medium's spirit influence the communications that it must transmit from other spirits? Yes, because if there is no affinity between them, the medium spirit could alter the responses by adapting them to its own ideas and tendencies. But it does not exert any influence on the communicating spirits themselves. It is merely a bad interpreter. So, is that why certain spirits prefer certain mediums? There is no other reason. They look for the interpreter who best sympathizes with them and transmits their thought most precisely. If there is no sympathy between them, then the medium spirit will be antagonistic and will put up resistance, making itself an unwilling and almost always unfaithful interpreter. You yourselves experience the same thing when the ideas of a scholar are transmitted by a foolish or dishonest person. So, this might be another reason that so many mediums, especially the new agey ones and the love and light mediums and the evidential mediums and all that, this is why a lot of them may say that there's no such thing as bad spirits, that there's no such thing as evil spirits, that there's no it's because when they go into their mediumistic state, they are elevating their vibration to like a higher love state and like a good state. And so therefore they're attracting the spirits who vibrate at that level in order to communicate. And so for them, they may never have experienced a bad spirit. Now, that's not to say that mediums who experience bad spirits are lower vibrational mediums. That may be the case, but it also may be that the medium themselves simply just knows how to go up and down the scale of frequency. There are certain things that some of these lower vibrational entities and spirits can teach us. There are some things that we can utilize from these energies because it's not a hierarchy. Like these spirits aren't one better than the other. They're just different, right? Same thing as humans, right? Like there's no like master race or no like master human. We're all human. We're just different and we vibrate differently. That's it, right? We can understand how this might be true of intuitive mediums, but not when we are dealing with mechanical mediums. Like, what? No, you don't understand the medium's role very well. There is a law that still escapes you. Remember that in order to produce the movement of an inert object, the spirit requires a portion of the medium's animalized fluid, which it uses to momentarily animate a table, for example, making it obey its will. Very well, for an intelligent communication, it also needs an intelligent intermediary that is, and this intermediary is the medium's spirit. Get it? So you're not gonna, a spirit who wants to communicate through writing is not gonna pick an illiterate medium. Okay? This does not seem to apply to what we call talking tables because when they and other inert objects such as planchettes and baskets respond intelligently, it appears that the medium spirit does not participate in any way. No, 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 that is a mistake. A spirit can give momentary, fictitious life to an inert object, but not intelligence. An inert object has never had intelligence. It is therefore the medium spirit who receives thought without realizing it and transmit it little by little with the help of various intermediaries. And we end up finding out later that this is an actual thing. This is an actual thing. Look up uh, kinesthesiology. It's this idea, and same thing with the planchette. It's these idea of these like little electrical micro movements that are happening in your body, and you don't even realize they're happening. You can't sense it. It's not something that you can control, but it's happening. And what he's saying here is that when a spirit communicates with the spirit of the medium, that spirit of the medium then allows these electrical impulses to occur through the fluids of the medium into the hands of the planchette, of the basket, of the pen or whatever. And to the medium, it just looks like holy shit, my hand is writing, or holy shit, the planchette is moving. But really, it's the spirit giving the basket or the planchette or the table or the pen a momentary glimpse of animation, and the intelligence that's being put out there is still coming through the medium themselves and through those little micro movements. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So, do these explanations imply that the spirit of the medium is never completely passive? It is passive when it does not mix its own ideas with those of the communicating spirit, but it is never completely nullified. Its cooperation is indispensable as an intermediary, even in so called mechanical mediums. Okay, so isn't there a greater guarantee of independence in the mechanical medium than in the intuitive medium, for example? Without a doubt. And for some communications, a mechanical medium is preferable. When we are familiar with the faculties of a particular intuitive medium, however, and depending on the circumstances, it does not matter. I mean, that certain communications require less precision. We are now at what? 7:50. Perfect. So I just approached the other subcategory, which is the theory of inert mediums. So we are going to put a pen in it for next time. And now it's time for questions. If anyone has any questions about the chapter that we just read, or about the things that we just read, or just in general, all the chapters that we read up to this point, if there's anything you guys want to ask me or get clarification on, now is the time. Okay, beautiful. I love when everyone feels good, feels confident, feels like they got the information that they needed to get, feels that it was clear. That's what I like. So, keeping up with the Joneses, you guys, I have medium classes every other Monday, so bi-weekly Monday classes, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These classes dive a lot deeper into medium and spiritism and psychic abilities and metaphysics and all that good stuff. And these lives that I'm doing with regards to reading all of these different spiritist books is a great little side subcategory for you guys to keep in your back pocket. This will help you also to get through those classes. And if any of you are interested in taking those classes, just go to my website, www.themagicalsolution.com, and register. And it's only $25, which is actually pretty cheap because although the class is advertised as being 40 minutes, it tends to run about an hour and a half and change because I love to answer a lot of questions and I love to keep dialogue going. So it's really worth it. What else? What else? What else? This Sunday, which is the 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be interviewing my dear friend, Gabby Celeste. She is a medium who is so badass. And you will love her. And we're going to be getting to know her and her life and all the things that she's been through. And if you want to check that out, that will be live Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Anything else that I might be missing? No, I think that's it. All right, guys, you have a wonderful, wonderful night. Happy full moon weekend or week, and we will see you next Thursday. This is how we grow, guys.